Alright guys, I am super excited to bring you this Vex build. I have been farming for it for quite a lot. There are some crazy synergies that go along with this, and like the title said, you probably have never seen a build like this. This isn't going to be your typical bleed or your typical kinetic Vex base build. We're actually going to be playing into elemental damage, kind of like how old Sirens used to be, and this is going to be very focused on shock damage. Like I said, there is some crazy synergies that go along with this, so if you want to follow along with a written guide, I will have an infographic linked down below. But of course, I will also explain everything in the video. And if you all do enjoy or learn anything new, consider doing all the normal YouTube stuff. All of the support really does go a long way, and I truly appreciate it. But with this setup, you will never have to reload. You can chain lightning literally everywhere, and you are also unkillable with just permanent overshields, permanent shields, permanent health, anything you think of. It is very, very good. Now, it's not perfect quite yet, and we'll talk more about that once we start going over the gear. But without further ado, enough of my yapping, let's jump straight into it. All right, so there are going to be three main pieces of gear that you need to get with this setup. One's going to be the oh my god submachine gun, one's going to be the Sparky shield, and then the other one is going to be the Teen Witch class mod. So to start off talking about how this synergy is going to work, I think we should mention the oh my god first. So this is going to have the legendary trait energy transfer. So basically, when your energy shield is active, you will get 50% more damage, and it will also consume the shield energy instead of ammo. So you can basically just keep draining your shield. You don't have to use ammo, and you get 50% damage when it's active. But it also has another part, so when overshield is also active, your energy shield will not deplete. So the way this wants to work is basically get an overshield, your shield's never going to deplete, you never have to reload, and you can keep that damage buff up forever. So how are we going to get an overshield? And that's actually going to come from the Teen Witch class mod. So whenever Vex has maximum health, her lifesteal will apply to shields, and then when she has maximum shield, it will apply to her overshield. So basically, lifesteal now is just granting you everything. This is going to make it so again you can get to that overshield, so now it will never drain. You get the bonus to damage, you never have to reload, you're pretty much unkillable because again you have permanent shield and overshield with this. Now those two are obviously pretty self-explanatory, but where it gets really interesting is when we get into our shield, the Sparky shield. So this is actually going to have the legendary trait short circuit. So when your energy shield is not full, it periodically shocks nearby enemies. Now you might be asking, Rest, why on earth would you want that if you are literally playing into having an overshield permanently and that energy shield not draining? And the answer to that is actually you can get this with an amp roll. So when energy shields are full, you're actually going to drain 20% of those shields, granted 50% damage. Now there's a 100% version of this, but honestly, it really doesn't matter. Just get one that can drain the shield, because that's where the synergy really comes into play here. So essentially the way this is going to work, since you have amp, you can basically shoot and it will still drain the shield, even though I have an overshield. So again, overshields wouldn't drain the shield because of the oh my god, but if you have the amp shield, it will actually drain it. And then since you have the Teen Witch, you can basically just keep healing the lifesteal. So you basically can shoot the amp shot, and now you're going to be able to just heal the shield back up. And you can keep a permanent shield, which again in return will grant you overshield. And as you've already seen, since you are using the amp on the short circuit or the Sparky shield, it actually will chain lightning damage, because you still technically are losing shield. Even if you have an overshield, that amp shot in the background is still taking your shield away, and you can chain lightning while also just keeping everything up. And that's where the main synergy really comes into play. But then we could take out our oh my god here with an overshield, and since we will be able to drain shields, we should be able to start getting the chain lightning here any second. There we go. And you can start chaining stuff with the oh my god. You can start chain it with the shield. Again, you keep things up permanently because of the Teen Witch, and as you can already hear, like all the status effects and dots that are just going off and all the chain damage going everywhere is just crazy. And this will only get even better when it comes to our skills. Here we go. I have a pretty good chain going on here. As you see, you just never have to reload. Like it's honestly crazy. So once again, as a quick recap, you're using the amp shield to drain your shield, to proc the short circuit, to chain lightning. You're going to have overshields and lifesteal to basically heal that back up constantly, but you will also keep draining the shield. Since you have an overshield, you never have to reload, and you get bonus damage since you will also have the permanent overshield. So you're basically just getting the bonus of having your shield all the way up for your submachine gun, while also just getting the bonus of not having your shield up with the Sparky shield. It's a really weird interaction, but it just just works. Not trying to sound like Todd Howard out here or anything, but it's very, very good, and it's a cool interaction. Now, for the rest of the stuff with the build, first off, for your rep kit, you're going to want to look out for an accelerator on your rep kit, because you're going to want to use your axe skill quite a lot with this build. Now, if you can get one with the order, so it has 2 charges, obviously that's very, very good, but it's not super necessary. Just make sure you get one with the accelerator. For the class mod, obviously we've already went over this, but status effect damage, lifesteal, these are very, very good stats to roll on it. Status effect damage actually will play a pretty massive part with this. Again, for the shield, just make sure you have amp. That's really the only thing you need. And then for your enhancement, try to get something with Molly Wand. There's things that increase status effect chance, things to increase status effect damage. I just don't have one, but for stat wise, you want to look out for gun damage being the main one. And then if you can get stuff like SMG fire rate or critical hit damage, anything like that, those are gonna be good. Basically, just look out for good stats. And if you can get a Molly Wand one with good stats, use that. But as you see, it doesn't matter. I don't even have one, and it still performs very, very well. Now, for your ordnance, I really like to run the bottle lightning because it kind of just plays into that shock feel. And in all honesty, your machine gun does better at clear than this. From time to time, it's pretty good, but again, the ordnance is kind of up to you. Now, for the firmware, I would definitely just recommend 3 Deadeye because you get more crit damage, more gun accuracy. You can stack crit damage. It's really easy to stack with this because you just fire so quickly. Then trick shot, more reload speed, which literally doesn't matter because you never have to reload. And then gun critical hit damage, again, so just more crit damage. There's really no status effect damage or elemental damage. There are some fire rate ones, but in all honesty, I think the crit one works better. So this is honestly your best bet with the build. Now, kind of like I mentioned at the beginning of the video and why I said the ordnance is kind of up to you, I do want to mention that this build definitely leans more heavily towards mobbing right now. It's still kind of a work in progress. You can get the job done. It just may take a little longer and you might not see these crazy instant boss smells that you see. But with that being said, and if you haven't clicked off yet looking at my inventory, if you do have a penetrator throw a knife, this build literally shreds bosses. The amount of damage you can do with the shock status effect is honestly very, very crazy. But again, I don't want you to have to rely on this to actually kill bosses. So again, once I come across like maybe like you know, just a really good gun or something, you know, I might make an updated version of this. But as of right now, again, you can get the job done. But if you want to melt bosses in literal seconds, you are going to need a penetrator throw a knife. And I hate saying that as much as you hate hearing it. But again, you can still get things done. Maybe if you have like a crazy shock ordnance, like a rocket or something, it could be very, very good. Again, still kind of a work in progress, but I do want to just be completely transparent with you all. But now let's actually get into the skills, and the skills actually play a pretty massive part with this. First off, your action skill. We're going to be running Incarnate. I've tried to run this with Face Familiar. I really, really wanted to make it work. But in all honesty, Incarnate is just so much better with this setup. And that is mainly because you can run the Augment Energy Vampire. So Vex just will do status effect damage to nearby enemies, and you gain an overshield each time enemy is affected by this. And then every single kill, basically, you can stack up status effect damage. So the really fun part is that you can pop this, and now basically you are also going to be chaining status effect damage with your skill. As you see, that like little dark blue line, not the like crazy lightning one, is actually going to be also just be chaining damage. And when you're getting kills, you can stack up this damage, and you're going to be able to just do crazy shock dot damage just with your action skill up. So with that being said, this is a very aggressive build because you want to be nearby enemies to proc this, to also proc your shield here. You want to be running and gunning with this build, again, just to keep chaining lightning. And we can do that starting off with our orange skill tree with stuff like Grave Sustenance. So when we get a kill, it will actually grant us axe skill duration. So that solves the problem. We can keep Incarnate up forever. We can also run Hasty Friend. So we gain more movement speed and damage reduction, more movement speed to be more aggressive. So obviously very, very good. Vorpal Friends here. So we can gain critical hit damage. 25% more damage is obviously very, very good. And then we also have Shocking Attunement. So whenever we hold in a shock weapon, we will get attuned to shock damage. But this is going to grant us more movement speed and 30% damage while walking. So again, kind of play it into that very aggressive style. More movement speed here, more movement speed here. You get more damage when you are moving, and you're always going to be attuned to shock because you're always holding the oh my god. But next up is Grave Thirst. So when we get a kill, we will get lifesteal for Vex and our minions. But again, the minion doesn't really matter. I really want the Face Familiar to work, but it doesn't do as much as the Incarnate can. But regardless, you will get 7.5% lifesteal, which will stack up to 3 times. Obviously, the lifesteal plays super well into the Teen Witch because you will be able to just stay at maximum overshield all the time. And then Storm Bless being the last perk here, so we get more shock damage and more shock status effect damage. Obviously, we're playing heavy into shock. That status effect damage honestly comes to play really, really well, but the 40% shock damage is also obviously very, very good. Now, for the green skill tree, we are going to be running 5 points of Grave Sight, so we get more critical hit damage and gun handling. This will stack up every time we get a kill. This is a kill skill. Again, since you want to be very quick, the gun handling honestly is pretty nice from this, and obviously the critical hit damage with all of the crit damage we have going on in the build is very good. Grave Implements, so whenever we get a kill, we will get more gun damage for duration. 20% stacks up to 3 times. For mobbing, this build just shreds, having 60% extra damage on top of the 40% from the shock. Target pre-science here, so our gun damage can actually critical hit literally anywhere on the enemy. As you saw here, you can actually like chain the lightning here at some points, and when you're chaining the lightning, that chain can also crit. So again, I'm like, obviously I'm critting this guy, but I'm still getting crits over here on the other guy because I'm shooting so much shock out as it is with the SMG. So again, you can just kind of crit everything on the battlefield, and all the crit damage you get is very, very good. And then also makes it extremely easy to keep Deadeye stacked permanently. Now for the final skills, this is one we actually put points in. We'll go over the other one here in a second, but these are going to come from our class mod. So we have conjunction. So we put some points in here. We get it up to 8 out of 5. So we're actually going to gain gun damage the more full our shield is, and gain damage reduction to lower our health. So the damage reduction is nice, but again, we don't really have to worry about that. But the gun damage, since we will always have a shield up all the time, since we're really playing into shields here, you're just going to get, I think it was 48% more gun damage. That's obviously very, very good. A little bit less than 48 because obviously you'll have the amp constantly draining, going up, you know, back and forth, but it's more gun damage regardless. Next up is Corporeal. This is the other class mod skill. So basically, Vex and our minions gain maximum overshield capacity and overshield duration. The duration obviously is very, very good. And then when we have an overshield, we gain increased damage dealt. This is 18% with 3 points in it, just 18% more damage dealt because we will always have an overshield. So again, pairing all that together, the damage here from Corporeal, the damage here from Conjunction, the damage from all our kill skills, the damage from being shock attuned, the damage from just playing into shock, you could stack up a ton of damage. And again, with the crazy synergies over here, you can just spread lightning literally everywhere, not only with your action skill but also with your gear, and you could basically just shred so many enemies with just shock damage, shock status effect damage, and it is very, very good. I do want to go over another skill setup real quick and kind of just give my reason behind it. So if you want to take 5 points out of Whirlpool Fiends and put them in enchantment to gain kinetic damage while your axe skill is active, this is very good. Obviously, if you run into some shock resistant enemies, this build can become kind of a problem because you're literally just running shock. So you can run enchantment to kind of help out with that. Now, the shock resistant enemies honestly aren't that bad. You can still kind of shred them, but this will just obviously make you not have to worry about it because you will get bonus kinetic damage. If you do take that, you can take things like material components. If you want to take stuff out like grave implements or even target pre-science here, it's not super necessary, so you can get more kinetic damage. You can also play into Bloodletter, which I know, but since you are going to be critting quite a lot really quick, you can stack this up very, very fast, and you're going to have the shock status effect going crazy. You're going to have the kinetic bleed going crazy because material components can also buff the status effect damage from kinetic. And since you do kinetic here, you're going to get the more kinetic damage as well. So you can basically kind of play into a shock / kinetic setup. And if you are trying to use this for boss scene without running a throw knife, I would definitely recommend that setup. But if you're tired of Bloodletter, you don't want to play into kinetic, this build will still get the job done. But I didn't want to not do this video without saying you can run this, but I know a lot of people are tired of running this. But again, it will make the build very, very strong, but you do not need it. And that's what I want to make super clear. You can run this exact setup and still do literally anything in the game you want to. Now for the enchantments, there's honestly some really fun ones with this. So first things first, we're going to be taking now with caffeine. So this will reduce your axe cooldown. We use a rep kit. Like I said in the beginning, this is going to be very good paired with the accelerator rep kit here. So you get 100% cooldown rate. If you have 2 charges, you can actually take advantage of this 2 times. So you can just literally get your axe skill back immediately. So with Incarnate, it has like a 55-second cooldown. It's very, very long. Pop the rep kit twice, you have it back. You don't have to worry about any cooldowns whatsoever. The only thing is you don't really use your rep kit for healing. You're using it for pure utility to get Incarnate back, but that's totally fine because you really want to have this up 24/7. A thing to note with Incarnate, you can also end the axe skill early. So if you're ever in an area where there's no enemies around, just be sure to hold down your axe skill button and you can actually save some time, which pairs really well with the rep kit to get it back. Now, next up is going to be contaminations. So critical hits will increase our status effect application chance. This is very, very good since we are going to be critting a lot with this build. We even have skills that will just crit for us. We're going to be able to stack up status effect chance to apply those shock status effects. And again, if you are running Bloodletter, you could also apply bleed if that's something you would like to do. Now, next up is going to be Riddle You This. So whenever we deal gun damage, we will gain a stack of Riddle You This. This will gain 1% increased gun damage per stack up to 50 times. It's really easy to get to 50 stacks of this, so it's just an extra 50% more damage on top of everything else, on top of the 50% damage that your SMG is already getting just for having the shield up. And then the really fun one is going to be Bullet Train. Now, I don't think this is like necessary, but it just fits into the build super well. So you can now hip fire and sprint, and you will gain gun damage the faster you move. Since you are playing heavy into movement speed with things like Hasty Friends, with the shocking attunement, you can now just kind of sprint and run, and you can just literally just kind of run past, and you will just be able to chain lightning everywhere while sprinting. It's really, really fun. Again, I don't think it's like super necessary, and there's probably something better you can take, but you can't tell me that that doesn't look like fun. If you don't want to take Bullet Train, you could opt in to go with something like Best Defense, get more damage when your health or shield is full. Obviously, they're always going to be full, so 30% more damage, which is obviously better than 15%. So in all honesty, the Best Defense is probably better here. But again, having the sprint run is just super fun. It just plays really well into the movement speed. But again, if you're just trying to min-max, definitely go with something like the Best Defense, or even if you want survivability, Bullets Scared of Me is also very, very good too. Now, if you were curious about where this gear drops, for the oh my god, it's actually going to come from Elpis, from the Callus boss fight. So if you come up here, you can basically just go to the orbital station. You have to run all the way through here, run to the end, and you can go in here and farm this over and over. Now, next up for the Teen Witch here, you can actually go to the Carcadia Vault, which is going to be over here, and you're going to farm that from the boss at the end, or Radix over here. So you can basically just fast travel here, get to the end, and you can farm the boss. Now, for the final thing here, for the Sparky Shield, this is actually going to drop from Shadow Pelt, which is a auger mine here. So basically, you just want to get here. I'm pretty sure the best route is just to take this silo right here. You can kind of just fly over to it, and you can fight Shadow Pelt. And Shadow Pelt, bro, I'm gonna be honest, this is the most annoying boss in the game. It's not even that he's difficult, bro. Just him running around everywhere, gaining that shield back. Man, it was a pain to farm this out. That's all I gotta say. But that is where you're going to get everything from. For the other stuff, again, you don't really need the ordnance, kind of whatever. The rep kit, you just gotta look out for the accelerator mod. So just be able to look out for those, and I wish you the best of luck on farming for that gear if you are going for it. And then for the final part of the build, this is the customization. I was obviously going for a very shock theme look. There's no like shock skin, so I kind of had to I guess make up for it here, but I am going to be running the Brighter Days head. I will have the just basic siren body here. Then for the style, I do have the Tiger of Bartali. Shout out to all my Borderlands 3 Omara fans out there. If you know, you know. But then for the primary, I have the Cerulean like blue here, and then I have Electric Tempest here. Obviously electric playing into shock. And then for the tertiary, I have Lilac Ash. So if you want to make your Vex look like this, definitely be sure to copy it down. The one thing is, I wish you could see like the shock attunement here. It's showing just kinetic attunement. You know, I wish I could see like the blue siren powers here, but maybe that's something for a future update. Anyway, though, that is going to do it all for this build. Let me know what y'all think about it down in the comments below. I know there's a lot going on for this, and it's also pretty gear dependent because you really do need an amp version of the Sparky Shield. For the SMG and Teen Witch, you can kind of just get one of those and you'll be fine, but just it will take some target farming to get the Sparky Shield with amp, but who knows, maybe you'll get it first try. Regardless, this build is a ton of fun, and if you want to swap things up for Vex and play into kind of how old Sirens used to play it into elements, definitely be sure to give this a shot. Or even if you were just a fan of Gage with her shock tree, obviously this is somewhat reminiscent, just playing heavy into shock, but now you're just going to be able to chain lightning literally everywhere 24/7, and it is just so much fun. Anyways, though, if you made it this far in the video, I wish you all the best of luck in putting this build together for yourself. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.